Uh, Good evening. We are live. Should have had a drink before we started, really.
Vodka and orange.
That seems to be a habit of mine. It is a player ratings with a fantastic analysis to my right and to your left, depending on what you're looking at the screen. Robbie, how's it going, bud?
Yeah, we're good, buddy. Just looking forward to this.
Excellent.
Actually, that's a lie. I'm looking forward to getting the next 3 weeks out of the way.
Yeah, we want the proper season back up and running, don't we? I mean, pre-season, it was great. Let's be honest. The fans turned up massively by, how do you say it? By making them full start 3 times in a row. Did you see that? Should we start with that?
Yeah, no. Yes, it was good. Lucas Oil Stadium is actually known for being loud and for being the big kind of playmaker. But over Game Pass, it sounded very loud. And when you mix in with the inexperience of probably the 4th string by the time that happened, it was good to see. And I think it was good just for morale for the kind of Lucas Oil Stadium to be able to kind of make that kind of step. And, some of the fans we kind of interacted with from Indiana, they are pretty crazy and full on sometimes.
Anyway, we'll get right into the player ratings. I was saying to Robbie just before, we're not going to do individual players, mainly because it's pre-season and half of them aren't probably going to be near the first team when it comes to it. We'll do it as units, starting with the obvious one, the quarterback, guys.
I thought you were going to start with the kickers.
Now, that's a very interesting battle, but starting with Jacob and Sam.
Yep.
What were your initial thoughts? Just a quick comment from Gary. I was at the game and we can get wild. I mean, yeah, I loved it. It's pre-season as well, let's remember. At points, it felt like a mid-season game, maybe a division clincher. But, yeah, so the quarterbacks, what did you think at the beginning? What did you think at the end?
I think it's quite important not to get too high or too low, especially kind of this start of the season. When you look at the way Jacob Eason started, it was very composed, very one side of the field. Whereas when obviously Sam come on, obviously with the interception early on, but he kind of grew into it. But it's important just to see their progression over the kind of 3 preseason games, and then analyze it on a bigger scale rather than kind of looking at the kind of micro. If you can take the good parts of some of those passes from Eason, that power he's got to kind of slot in those passes between the kind of lines, brilliant. But then there was a few accuracy issues, so don't get too high on one, don't get too low on the other, and kind of find the kind of happy medium. Especially when you kind of see who they're working with and who they're against. There's a few times where Eason held the ball a little bit too long. Took a couple of sacks, a couple of hits where perhaps with a bit more experience, they'd have thrown it away or got rid of the ball a bit earlier. And you can see the further he got into the game, he was holding the ball for a little bit longer. Whereas that first drive, it was very, let's get the ball out, let's try and get a rhythm.
Yeah, Eason had a very, you'd say a perfect 2-minute drive right at the end of his stint with the ball. Launching it big to Michael. Was it Michael Strawn, that one? 50. Oh.
On the left hand, as he come across the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had Paris Campbell down on the left line, which was absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And Erlinger, interception, obviously. He's a rookie quarterback. It happens, like you say.
Sorry about that. It's the kind of phase. He was using his legs a lot more. Is that because he wasn't seeing the passes in time? Was he not going through his progressions properly? And that's why he kind of took off on his feet. It was his first time. He's got that speed. He's having to get up to that speed of preseason from college, from practice. So it's all that kind of step in that journey to go that next level up. But as it starts, I think you'd agree with me. If week 1 was tomorrow, you'd start with Eason. There'd be no conversation on it.
Yeah, of course. It just makes sense. I think Sam needs to work on a few things. He's maybe a bit more of a project, and then maybe a starter, depending on how Carson goes, because the arm strength from Erlinger, I mean, he did all right. He fit it some deep ball, but it was at the speed they was throwing. And first team level, they seemed very pickable throws.
Yeah, no, definitely. And kind of coming into this game, there's a lot of talk about Eason only had 30 snaps for the whole of last year, and obviously his college career was a bit up and down. Obviously, come out that kind of a little bit early, and his game time at college level wasn't that much. And Sam Erlington's played a lot more at college, so there was that kind of trying to debate that. But Eason sat for a year under Rivers, and I think that kind of shows. If you watch tape of yesterday compared to what it was from college, there is a definite big improvement, especially with the accuracy, even though there were a few issues yesterday.
Gary saying both QBs overcame adversity. Yeah, both. And I expect both to carry on going that way at different points in the career. Eason's maybe looking to be the backup this year, and depending what happens to Carson, maybe even be the starter, whereas Erlinger's probably looking to stay on the roster and then generate some talk.
Practice squad for Sam.
Yeah. So what would you rate them out of 10, both of them?
Looking at it, Eason, completion, was it 15 out of 21? Some of them weren't his fault. I'd probably put 2 or 3 where, he went to track and instead of going for the numbers, he was up high and, he was out left for a couple. I'll probably go for a 6 for a preseason game. If it was at a week 1, probably be down at a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Sam Erlinger, I'd put him at about a 4 or 5 as well.
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, like you said, I think you said in the group chat, got to remember what they're playing against. They're not exactly playing against the best coverage team out there.
That's why it's harder to kind of look at Sam Erlinger, because obviously Jacob Eason was playing against the 2s mainly. Yeah. Whereas when Sam Erlinger come in for that second half, especially in that fourth quarter, these are people that are going to be working in the shops next year, or they're going to be kind of trying to get a practice spot. So it's harder, but it wasn't exactly there's no kind of wow. Yeah. This is what we got.
Okay, moving on then. I know this unit got a lot of stick during the game, but I might stick up for him a little bit. The offensive line.
Yep.
Start with the bad. Pass protection, not there at all.
Yep.
But the good, they seemed pretty good and following the same footsteps as our first offensive line in the run game, which was dominated the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Let's start on the kind of pass protection. Again, there was a few times where, as I said, like Eason kind of held on to it, and both tackles, again, if they were going up against starters, I wouldn't be confident at all. Again, look at who we were playing. Absolutely. It was at Davenport, who probably won't be in and around. Like, he might get a practice squad spot, maybe. Sam Tevy. There's so many question marks going into the season for left tackle, and I wouldn't ever slag Chris Ballard off, because he's come across some massive adversity, come across some massive QB issues, and well, we know the history, and left tackle, it is a struggle, and Fish has got to become good. Otherwise, we're going to struggle.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say I didn't see any great plays from him. No, like outstanding plays. As far as the rating goes, probably like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Yeah,
like I thought Joey Hunt did well. Obviously, he's not exactly massively experienced.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously been in around. Like last year, he got a few reps, and he can play guard as well. So, I thought he was good, and I thought he's obviously going to be in the roster going into next year. But yeah, 5. There was. I'd be probably a little bit nicer and say a 5.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The catching part of the game, the wide receivers and the tight ends, we'll group them as one.
Yeah. Okay.
Some big plays from Granson, Strawn. someone else who I just completely forgot.
Black Patman.
Yeah, Patman, that's it.
Do you know the wide receivers got to be the hardest group to cut down?
Yeah.
When they're looking to cut from the 90, where do they go with it? Paris Campbell had one good catch yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, not enough people have been talking about him in pre-season, during training, during camps. So, is he doing enough to still be there? Taking on that number 1 jersey annoyed me, just because, if you're going to be wearing number 1, you've got to be a standout. So that's kind of question there. But yeah, with Strachan, Patman and Black, they did very well. They didn't harm their cause, and it's kind of, I think we've kind of stepped up and thought, there's a few options there. Tight end, I do worry a lot, just with the lack of depth.
Yeah. When it comes up, there we go. Colts loyalist, nice to see you. I was at the game. I was most impressed with our young receivers. 10, 12, 5, 7, 17, and 85.
Right. Let me jump in there. Number 12, Harris. You know 12's Andrew Luck. We all know you got lumbered with that last year, but come on. Like, just 241s yesterday.
Yeah.
Just wear something else.
Really, 17 and 85 are really battling for the last 2 fights. Here we go, guys. I mean, for me, the 2 last spots has to be Strawn and Patman, from what I've seen in that game with Ty, Pittman, Pascal, and I'm thinking, God, my mind's going blank in a minute.
With Pascal, I was quite happy not to see him yesterday.
Yeah.
He's obviously been in and around the team, and he definitely played the preseason. Well, not last year, but the year before, he played in the preseason games. And I think he's cemented that I'd say wide receiver 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Spot, which has been really, really cool. He's been very impressive. He is.
Mikey, I think we all agree with you. The best thing about preseason is nobody gets injured. Yeah, you saw it as well with
CJ Carey went down, didn't he, in the first?
Yeah, you saw it with the Panthers as well. They had a few injuries towards the end.
But you got them as well. Like, yes, they had the summer off. Yes, they've been practicing and kind of with pads, but they got to get their body conditioned. Over here, like, I played a lot of rugby growing up. It's a case, if you've ever played for a while, it takes a few weeks to get up to game speed, and you're going to get niggles. So this is where they really need to kind of earn their kind of crust, really.
Yeah, Gary's saying they all look good, and I agree. 17 and 10. Yeah. Mikey, I've asked this question myself, Mikey. Why is Strawn not pronounced Strachan? As
Strachan, that's I'm English.
Yeah,
I see the CH in there. I'm going Strachan.
Yeah, I think that's an English-American thing, depending on which side of the pond you are. As long as he balls out for the Colts, I don't mind what you call him.
Tight ends, though, I don't know why people aren't really talking about our tight end issue.
Yeah.
I'm calling it an issue just because we've got Jack Doyle,
God,
who we know. Mo Adcox, he has spurts of showing the kind of light and showing these kind of great catches.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack Doyle is obviously going to be more predominantly for the run game.
Yeah,
those kind of short 5-10 yards across the middle. But yes, it's that consistent big body tight end.
Yeah, tight ends. We'll talk about them before we rate this unit. But the only one I remember is Granson from that game.
Yeah, and it, again, being very harsh, which, again, I said at the top, you can't be too high, too low. There was a couple of handling issues with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the blocking, he has to do it, especially the way we want to run the ball and the way we play. The tight end has to be able to block as well.
Yeah.
Which, again, young, he's only played one preseason game, so I'll definitely take that. But
and to rate him, it's just I'd say they they did well, and there was some big plays. So I'd say maybe a 6, maybe a 7.
Yeah. No, 6.5.
Yeah.
I'd split it there.
Okay, moving on to the backfield. I think we only ever saw our 4th string and 5th string running back.
Marlon was in Winnie for the first,
yeah.
Which was nice to see him running again. Obviously after last year. Jordan Wilkins played a lot yesterday.
Yeah.
I was thinking, what is his role this year? How much snaps? Are we going to carry the 4 running backs?
If you want to carry it, and then do you want to carry 3 quarterbacks and 4 running backs? That's.
But so it's okay. Obviously, Sam Erlinger will go practice squad, and then you'll only have Wentz and Eason. But you can't feed everyone.
Yeah.
I like Jordan Wilkins. Yes, he was running with our O line, which obviously isn't the best at the moment. But again, we're not playing anyone that good, and I think he only averaged 2.5 yards an attempt yesterday, which someone of his quality and his experience you'd expect to find those holes. Yes, some of the holes weren't there, but again, it's going to be a big preseason for him.
Yeah, obviously got the Russian TD. Was there any?
Say again?
Oh, I can't remember. He got the TDs. We got one.
Wilkins got one. Ben Lemay?
Yeah, Lemay. That was it. It was.
He's not going to. Obviously, he's just there, camp body, getting some experience, getting some game on tape. Because he won't be making it.
Yeah. So maybe not our starting running back room or any stars really shining, but a decent performance. 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Like you can't knock it really. There's definitely nothing to kind of be concerned about. Anyway.
Okay, moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Big names on the defensive line. Guys we're looking really to try and break into the squad in Benegu and Teray.
Again, I was thinking about the kind of DNs and how they kind of produced yesterday, or like a lack of in kind of my eyes. When you look at looking at the roster, is Ben Bannigan going to make it?
Probably.
Depth charts just come out.
Yeah.
As we've been on here. Where have they got him rated? So we've got Kwity Paye, Kamoko Toure, Ben Banagu on one side, and we've got Taekwon Lewis and Al Qadim Mohammed. So he's fifth on the depth chart at the end so far.
Really on the scrape of things, and for someone at his point in his career, he really needs to make a big step to stay in the squad.
Isaac Rochelle his name was kind of mentioned a few times. So is he going to take that step in front of him? He's obviously been with us a couple of years. Obviously, Ballard's not worried about cutting people he drafted.
Yeah.
It's a big one for him. He needs to step up and really kind of show on these preseason games.
I think we got 1 sack, maybe 2. I can't remember.
Joey Ivy.
Yeah.
But again, no, I'm not going to even pretend to know who he is.
Yeah. And for a team for 2 guys who were fighting for a spot, I would have expected more firepower going up against second and third stringers.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to be harsh, but probably a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, no. I think you're generous. What's Mikey just put there? Hope the O level of play improves. Everything on socials is defense winning all the time. Our defense, especially that line. Yes, no Grover, no Taekwon, no DeForest. They're obviously big. No Kwity Paye, which I was kind of hoping we'd see. Understand why he's not yet, because again, you don't play stars just yet. But when the depth isn't really there, you kind of worry a little bit. Al-Qadim Mohammed, I thought he was great last year. I thought he really stepped up. So again, not too worried, just because trying to get into that rhythm. But Ben Banagou for me is the one that needs to pull his finger out.
Yeah, especially when you're looking that also you've got Deo right behind Kwity Paye, our second round pick.
Yeah.
It really is a tight room, and there's no room for complacency in the DN room.
Yeah.
Moving on, probably the most talked about position in the offseason, or one of the cornerbacks. For me, started off rocky, a couple of books coverage. That's probably going to happen when your main defensive coordinator isn't in the building. But got a lot better, and something I really enjoyed was we was really good in man coverage from what I saw.
Yeah, with that kind of busted coverage, especially it was in the first quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You got to remember they were playing Philip Walker, who is going to know some of these guys. He isn't a bad quarterback. And he can find those gaps, and he's got that patience on the ball. So yeah, it happened. It was the first quarter of the preseason. Cornerback is an issue for us. I still think, TJ Carey going down didn't help. I haven't heard what he's got today. I haven't heard any kind of results or assessments yet, so we don't know. I think it was his knee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, you got Marvell Tell that went down as well with a groin. But again, haven't heard how they've kind of got on. Because it's a little bit worrying with the cornerbacks. I'm not big on them anyway, as it is. I think Rock could be good. There's a lot of question marks, as I think I've said on here before. If he was playing for a New England or the Tampa, I don't think half the calls would get called on him. But that's just me being a Colts fan, probably. Again, I'm just checking the depth chart for the corners. So Xavier Rhodes, Rocky Sin, TJ Carey, Isaiah Rodgers. So then you got obviously Marvell Tell behind them. There's a lot of pace there, some good strength, but it's just lacking that shutdown, I guess. I think that'd be fair to say.
I mean, and they didn't really have much to do in the passing game. There was the red zone defense. I thought, I can't remember who it was, but he made an excellent play. Otherwise, it was a touchdown.
Was it Adams? Wasn't it across the middle? I might be wrong.
Yeah, but you know what play I'm on about.
Yeah.
So a 5 out of 10 standard.
Yeah. Again, not too high, not too low.
Okay, linebackers and safeties. The one thing I have to say about this is I don't really remember him doing anything, which I suppose is good. That's all I can say, really.
I'm quite big on our linebackers. Even without Darius there, like Zaire Franklin, I'm a big fan. Big length. He got that range, got that speed. Matthew Adams again, big fan of. And I think Malik Jefferson started yesterday, if my memory serves me right. But they had that big kind of busted run where kind of everyone was together.
Yeah, that was a
kind of spun out, but that shouldn't happen. But I guess it was first half of a preseason game, so again, try not to overreact. Yeah.
They got this stop on the was it the 4th and 2?
Yeah.
Which was which was Zaire Franklin, I want to say, who made a big
I'm just checking the what they got the depth chart as for. So you got Darius, Will, Bobby, Mike, Zaire, Sam, and then like Sky Moore wasn't around yesterday. EJ Speed. So Jordan Glasgow, I'm a massive fan of. I really wish he gets. I
think we all are, aren't we?
It's definitely special teams. Massive on special teams, and I hope he gets a bit more game time at linebacker during this preseason just so we can see what he's got.
Yeah. Also, my biggest concern for us is our offensive tackle depth. Tebby, Holden, Davenport have been seriously underwhelming. Do you think we try and pick someone up during roster cuts? No.
Again, yes, exactly the same. I wish we did. I hope we do. I can't. It's not a ballad. It's not a ballad thing. That.
No. The thing is,
what did we give him? We give him like a 4 or 5. We give him a 4 out of 10, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we was being quite generous, to be honest.
Yeah.
The thing is, these guys, you'd like to say they can only get better watching and training with Nelson, Smith, Glowinski, Kelly, and Fisher. You can only hope that helps them. They might not be great now, but let's give them some time. They're not going to be playing every down. Some of them are only going to be there as really rotational players, garbage time players. You don't always need superstars at depth. You just need guys who can do their job.
That's a good point, because if you look at it, they play as a unit. If you're just replacing one across the 5, plug a hole. The others can kind of adapt and they can help out. You can bring in a Jack Doyle that can help.
Yeah.
A Tevy, for example. But it's just when we've got a massive, they've got to stay healthy. We've had such luck over the last 2 years, really, of our O-line depth. Kelly's been in and out of kind of concussion. Last year, the year before. Obviously, Quinton's had a couple of issues, but in the whole, our O-line's been fantastic when it comes to staying on the field. And so, remember a few years ago when Costanzo was out and then, was having to move everyone around. Denzel Good was playing, who's, to be honest, he shouldn't be even in the league.
Yeah.
It's harsh, but, that's the kind of level of what we needed. Andrew Luck got injured for a reason because we didn't have the O-line. So it's about looking after our prize assets. And as I said back in March, if we don't keep Carson Wentz fit, we're going to have issues.
Yeah. Problem is they aren't training with him due to injuries. I don't quite mean physically training with them. I sort of mean we used to see it as Andrew Luck, who would be stood on the sidelines, and when Jacoby came over, he'd be like this, and this, and you would hope someone like Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly especially take these younger guys and less experienced guys and guys and be like, do this, do that.
Well, the 4 from last year, they've played hundreds of snaps together now.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of they've got to get their kind of understanding that. Yes, they've got to get their rhythm in time, which is going to take a little while. But I wouldn't worry about lack of reps for game time, because they've got that game time experience. It's just the rhythm, and that will come.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much. Again, it's just a case of a massive 5 in, 5 out, which is worrying.
Yeah. Okay, so linebackers and safeties. Did we rate them?
No, safeties we didn't talk about, but again, Julian Blackman's going to be starting. Free safety. Again, just looking at what they've got the depth chart as. You got Julian free, Kari Willis, George Odom. I still would have liked someone else in there. We have obviously Kenny Moore that kind of plays the nickel, but obviously a corner kind of plays it in between that. But from yesterday, there's nothing really that kind of stood out.
Yeah,
I can't believe Kenny Moore during the corners.
I did like seeing Sean Davis out there. I am looking forward. Hopefully, he can make some big plays. Okay, now on to the interesting one. I'm not going to go through rating all the special teams. There's no point. But the kickers, split competition.
I think we need to give a special mention to the kind of holding unit. Both kickers came in and it was both very fluid.
Yeah.
So I just need to plug my laptop in before it dies. Yeah, like the fluidity of it, Sanchez was there holding it, hold it for both those kickers, like different angles. So the transition from one kicker to the other was great because you hear all the time, listen to Pat McAfee, the way he kind of talks about the kind of fundamentals of holding the ball, the angles. Some people like it this way, some people like it that way, and getting that timing down. So when the leg's ready to come, there's no kind of delays. I think that's definitely worth a mention for the kind of mechanics of it. Both kickers, you hear from training camp, both kickers are being fantastic. They're going from kind of 50 yards. And when we saw yesterday again, the only reason I'd go for Hot Rod is because he was with us last year and he's a bit of a geek.
Yeah.
And us Colts fans love a geek.
Yeah. We do love Hot Rod. But again, big shout out to, okay, it's not a big pressure kick because obviously it's pre-season, nobody cares, but to come on with seconds left and not have a timeout, you usually would have taken the timeout there as a team. It's not, these are not big pressure situations, and then there's nothing riding on them, but it's still good to see everything works well.
Yeah, the mechanics today, if you're going to be extra critical from a kick, Pinheiro, that kick at the end, it had a massive fade right, but he was only from 30 yards out, so that fade's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
If that kick was from 40, 50 yards, that fade would have been an issue, but then would he have put it on there? It's nice to have, especially after the end of Vinny and the issues we had with our kicking game. I still have nightmares about it. But for me, we stay with Hot Rod just because he's bulked up. He's got a bit of extra weight on him.
Yeah.
They're saying he's making kicks from 50, 55, and that's what we need. What a question for Harrison.
Interested on your thoughts on officiating. We will get into that very, very quickly.
We'll leave that to the end just because, I can see the smoke's coming out of me.
But no, so for them, an 8 out of 10 in the star unit for me because everything was perfect. Even, pure fleet foot, it looked like it was perfect backspin. Sanchez's punt, what came off the gunner's head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good day for special teams.
But
so 8 out of 10 for me in star performance.
Our special teams, it has been very good.
Yeah,
it has been. I'd say elite. Our special teams. And you look at our special teams from yesterday, who was chasing down, who are the gunners. These are people again that aren't going to be on rosters next year.
Yeah.
If you're on the special teams in the fourth quarter, they're the guys that are kind of worrying, and in years past, first round cuts, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So it's not too much. It's mainly for our kicking. That's the kind of thing. And as I say, since Vinny's headaches, Pinheiro and Hot Rod have been great.
Okay, the coaches, we'll just do the coaches as a whole unit rather than get into everyone because obviously Matt wasn't there and Frank pretty much runs the offense with a couple of adjustments from Marcus. For me, excellent, challenging that call. I still don't know how that wasn't overturned. I don't get it. Maybe someone can explain it to me where I go, actually, that's the rule. But for me, 7 out of 10, maybe.
You don't want to be showing anything.
Yeah.
You want to keep it quite vanilla. You don't want to be showing your hand. You don't want to be showing anything special. You want to see rhythm, for that first drive for Eason. They quite clearly see the progressions. It'd be nice for that first drive to be anywhere but the left side of the field because it was a case of this the left side of the field, snap the ball, this is where we're going. Whereas obviously that kind of changed throughout the game. But I think that was just easy passes just to get him into the game, just get him in rhythm because you don't want him getting spooked early on. Great by Reich, obviously former quarterback, he knows how to run it. And again, from a defense point, you don't know who you're coming up against. Our coaches wouldn't have game plan much, so you can't really knock it. I'm looking forward to in season with you and our defense.
I could get into my ranting straight away about that.
Let's wait till the season.
Yeah,
let's wait till the season. Yeah, but from the coach point of view, there's no issue. I think Lucas Oil Stadium. I think obviously we said at the top, but I think we need to score them a good 9 out of 10 as well because it looked pretty full for a pre-season game.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to give them a good mention.
They contributed to penalties all across the board for a pre-season game, which is mental.
Yeah, and that is a factor. When teams go into Philadelphia, when teams go to Green Bay, they talk about the atmosphere, they talk about the stadium, and so if one head coach or one coach going into the season spends 10 seconds talking about it, that's 10 seconds they're not talking about structure and play. That and it's every little helps.
Yeah. To get onto the loyalist question, the officials, I mean, 0. If I could rate them 0. No, I'll be real. A lot of the penalties were typical preseason penalties, false starts. You expect to see them all day long in preseason. Let's get to the BS calls, because loyalist wants to hear our thoughts on that. The taunting rule, I mean, that was trash. I don't even think LeMaine purposely flexed that there guy. I just didn't get it.
But it's a stupid rule.
Yeah.
If they're in the face and they're inciting kind of any I wouldn't say aggression, but if they're just being arseholes, if they're in the face and being and being physical, I think that's stepping a line up, and I think they're stopping that line from being stepped over. But we love the celebrations, we love the atmosphere, we love the theatrical part of it. So it happens, and love seeing flex and kind of show that bit of passion. If someone's just run 20 meters, 20 yards and smash someone, we want to see them getting up and because that's part of the game.
Yeah.
It is a stupid rule, but it is what it is. But every preseason, the referees at OTT, they're well over the top. It's a case of they're trying. I think I said last night, I think they're trying to bring in a structure of this is a culture we're trying to bring in. But then when the first game, it tends to be a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be big on taunting this year. A bit like football, look at like soccer over here. Last year, if someone brushed past someone, they'd go down, it'd be a foul. Whereas, this year they've changed the rule. They can be a bit more physical.
Yeah.
Which then, and again, it's about creating that culture so the players understand where they can and can't go.
Total garbage. Stupid needless rule. That was incredibly fun. I mean, I get what you're saying, Robbie. They come out to set a precedent, and they're just doing their job, what they've been told to enforce, and what they've been told to, and let's get this straight. This was an NFL player rule.
Yeah.
Not an NFL owner or Roger Goodell rule. It just a bit of common sense would be applied, because then you got to start splitting hairs and say, what's the difference between LeMaine flexing and their linebacker running 30 yards to the end zone when he's just picked it off?
Again, and I think common sense and NFL officiating doesn't ever come into play. How many times did we sit there last year messaging each other? It's like, why is that a call, but that's not a call? That holding, that's happened exactly on the series before, because it's a different team. And that's why I keep going back to Rocky Sin. If he played for a different team, he wouldn't get half the flags.
Yeah. So we could rate the officials. I mean, well,
you give him a 0, I'll give him a 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Colts loyalist, it's very frustrating. I think everyone just gets pissed off with it. Not just Colts fans. I think it's league wide. It's good that they, at least they come out and kind of say why they're giving it. Mm-hmm. So then, they can be held accountable for it in the media, but they don't really get held accountable. It'd be great to kind of have someone interview them, get one of these ex-pros, interviewing after the game, because obviously their insight of actually being in there. We can only talk from being outside. We've never played in the NFL. Yeah. So we don't know what it's like to actually be in the trenches there. So it'd be good if they got questioned afterwards and just Just throw rotten tomatoes at them would be good.
I suppose my last thing is, do you understand why it wasn't overturned?
No.
Yeah.
No. All I'd say is, again, trying to play devil's advocate and sit on that fence.
Yeah.
The players obviously warming up to it. The officials have got to warm up to it as well.
Yeah.
They've got to warm up to game speed, and hopefully they'll take a bit of a look at themselves and again just trying to play that card.
Yeah. I think that's it really. Unless you have anything to add, anything that stood out for good or bad.
I think we kind of got through. I think looking at next week, I think it'll be a lot of the twos again. I don't think, or do you think it'll be next week? Play some of the ones, give them the week after's off to rest, and then going into the full season. Because they're going to need game time. You do need some, just a few snaps, maybe a couple of series, just to get your body synchronized with that kind of speed. And as much as you train, and they're doing train against other teams, you're never going to get that match speed in front of the fans until you're actually there.
Yeah.
If you've been playing in front of a crowd, your heart's beating faster because you've got the noise, you've got the kind of mental stress of it as well, and and it takes a little while for that body to adjust to it.
Yeah. So that's it from us. I mean, I am doing these player ratings, but yeah, this is just like a preseason for us. This was just to work out the format, see what we like, what we don't like. As we do go into the season, you have a more solid schedule for the people watching. I know it's been a bit flaky recently, but with real life,
it's easy, man. You can't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, just look. These will be after every game. So obviously, loyalist UK scores 10. I mean, yeah, we'll take a 10. We like taking credit for.
We're warming up. Let's take a 4 for now.
So thanks so much for watching, and see you all later.
Cheers, buddy. Speak to you soon.